dark skies and the driest desert on Earth. Today we're talking about Chile.
Welcome to Vacation Mavens, the podcast that brings you travel inspiration and practical tips from two moms who know how to plan the perfect trip.
I'm Tamara from Your Time to Fly.
And I'm Kim from Stuffed Suitcase. With over 40 years of travel experience between us, we're here to share our favorite destinations from road trips to cruising, theme parks, and European adventures.
Whether you're planning a family vacation or a mom getaway, we have the tips and tricks to make memories that will last a lifetime.
Tamara, you are back from another South America jaunt. We covered a while back, we talked about Peru, and today we get to talk all about Chile. And you were careful to make sure that I'm saying it correctly. So for everyone to know, that's the name of the country. It's Chile. We're not talking about Chile food or anything like that.
Yeah, I know I missed you. I feel like it's been so long since we talked. For so many months, we had taken a little hiatus, and then we had also, in the past, always done like an every other week or 3 times a month. But now that we've been doing weekly podcasts, I really look forward to my times to chat with you. And so anyway, luckily we started recording right away, and we didn't spend like an hour and a half just chatting first. So you get to hear it all first to read on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. It's been fun when we've talked about our trips, but we both have been pretty busy. So we're going to split up the Chile talks in 2 sections so you guys get an idea, because Tamara kind of had 2 themes with her trip. So we're going to first head up to and you're going to have to say it for me again, Tamara. What is it?
The Atacama Desert.
Atacama Desert. I keep wanting to say like Adirondack or something like, okay, Atacama Desert. And then we're going to be talking all about wine tasting, which was a fun couples trip for you. It was a couples trip both ways, but I think the wine tasting is always something people are interested in. So today we're going to talk about how you got into Chile and all of that. So why don't you kick us off and kind of start us off with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Chile has been on my list for a while. And of course, I think what most people will think of Patagonia and the Torre del Paine. That one I really have to learn how to pronounce. That national park, it's just so gorgeous. It's definitely still on my list, but Chile is a very skinny and very long country, so it's hard to get everywhere. We only had about 10 or 11 days. So we decided to focus on the northern part. We flew into Santiago, and what had made it happen for us this year is that I had found a deal on Avianca Airlines for their business class. And if you aren't watching on YouTube, you will see that I did air quotes around business class, because I learned very quickly why that was such a good deal. So basically, we flew Boston to Bogota to Santiago, and I would say Avianca business class is pretty much its premium economy. Maybe. Yeah, it's premium economy. And basically, it's like a typical plane where the middle seat, it's not just blocked, it is 2 slightly wider seats, but there's no like real recline more than a regular seat. There's no footrest. There's no anything. And when I booked it, it was actually supposed to be a lay flat seat. And at least one of the legs was going to be a pod, like a true business class. But then they switched the planes, and that's what it was.
I hate how they do that. We told you guys about that, picking the seats.
Exactly.
We talked about airplane switches.
I was still really happy to be up front, because it was a super long travel day. It was probably still close to 22 hours round trip, just in terms of getting to the airport all the time, because we had just a little bit of time in Colombia and Bogota to transfer. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's basic. You pay for everything. If you're even in first class, I
was like, what? You weren't getting
we had a meal,
and
you were served like a drink with a meal, but not a drink with like when you got in,
anytime,
or not like later on. It was like you got your one like glass of wine or whatever with the meal if you wanted.
Oh my goodness.
And then
I'm spoiled with my pre-departure beverage just with Alaska first class.
And then we went, and by the way, the Avianca Lounge in Bogota, not so great either. But it did have a serve yourself bar. But we didn't have time to go there on the way down. Anyway, I'm rambling. But Glenn went to use the bathroom at one point during the flight, and he saw they had some like baskets with like chips and things like that. So he was looking to see if he could have a snack. And then they had Doritos. He's, can I have the Doritos? They're like, no, only if you pay for them. So like in the back of the plane, you pay for everything. It's like a Spirit kind of thing where you pay for everything. And so but I'm in business.
First class.
So whatever. It was what it was. We got there safely. The bags got there. It was on time, like all of that. So it's not my first choice, but it was fine.
Yeah, I've heard some horror stories about Avianca with points bookings as well. Luckily, it wasn't canceled on you because that's a common thing.
It was on the way back, but at least a few weeks in advance.
Yeah,
so
early.
We could make
that's
the plan.
the one. Okay.
But yeah, so then we wanted to only spend really one full day in Santiago. I wasn't quite sure what to do there, and we only had so much time in the trip, and I ended up really loving Santiago and like the part that we saw. So I wish we had more time, but we stayed at the Hyatt Centric. You know me, I'm always trying to do new Hyatt brands. So the Hyatt Centric, it was in the Las Condes neighborhood, which is like near the Ritz and the Intercontinental. So you're
really
in like
nice.
a good neighborhood. And it's like their financial district, but it was really like wide boulevards, tree lined, like outdoor sidewalk cafes, like really a nice area. And I loved the Hyatt Centric. Like I wish we had stayed there longer. I used points, so that was great.
Yep.
And I am an Explorist level on Hyatt. So they offered us in advance, they had emailed me to say, we can do a free wine tasting for you. Nice. So one evening we did a wine tasting and they had their charcuterie and 3 or 4 wines to try. So it was very, very nice. They had a rooftop pool. I would definitely say to stay there. At first I was thinking, should I stay like more in the like old town center? Because usually when you're going to a city that has like some history or whatever, you might want to stay closer to like downtown. But I'm glad that he didn't, because downtown, it's a little bit more like Times Square. Like it's not as nice. And we definitely had a ton of people warning us about like petty crime. Watch out for pickpockets. Make sure you're not having like a backpack or your purse that can easily be gotten into or grabbed, or phones. Don't keep your phone out. Don't wear jewelry. So like a lot of petty crime kind of warnings. So especially in that downtown, it was completely very safe feeling like where we stayed. We had one day. So we took a half day tour. We got in super late. So we said, we're going to sleep in. We're going to go have like lunch, and then we're going to do a half day tour. So we got to see the highlights. And
tour you booked?
Actually, I came with a driver. So it was like a guide and a driver so that we could get to all different parts of the city.
How'd you pay for it? Or how'd you
I think I booked it on Get Your Guide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It was just like a private tour then. Private half day. Nice. Very cool.
So that worked out really well. And then we just had dinner, which was one of the most amazing dinners of our lives.
Was that the one you shared about?
Yes.
Okay. That was crazy. What was the name of that restaurant?
It was called Borago, Borago. And it was like being on set of a cooking show or an episode of The Bear or something like that. It's like the service. I've never had such amazing service. It was like completely, like everything was just timed so beautifully. Like you never felt rushed. You never waited for anything. Like but you didn't feel hovered over. It was like absolutely perfect. And
was it really small table? Like how many people?
It was actually larger than I expected.
That the timing was so good.
Yeah, I'm thinking it was at least like 20 to 30 tables.
Okay.
Yeah, so like a decent size, open kitchen, 13-course tasting menu with wine pairing. But like the courses, sometimes like 2 things came at the same time. And everything was like small, but everything was so creative. Like it was like very
interactive. It seemed like
never seen such a creative like presentation. Like we were just grinning. We were having so much fun just experiencing it. Like it was the food was good, but it was really the experience. So I would definitely recommend it. I feel like in general, like Chile is definitely a really good food and wine destination.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So you guys had that tour. So did you have 2 nights at the Hyatt Centric and then you guys moved on from there?
Yeah, just 2 nights. So really one full day. And then we had to fly up to the Atacama Desert. So we went back to Santiago Airport. It's about a 2-hour flight up to the town of Calama. And then it's like an hour and a half ride to the main town, which is not much in the desert. It is called San Pedro de Atacama. And so that's where all of the hotels and resorts are, and that's where everything's based out of. But what's really interesting about Chile is like they're really big on mining as well as agriculture. And there's a lot of like lithium mines up in that area.
Right.
So you have a lot of, the planes were really full. And I think a lot of miners that were, because apparently they work like a week or 2 on, and then they go back to where they live for a week. Sometimes work another job there. And so, you saw a lot of men, but then you would also see a lot of businessmen that I think were going up to check on their mines or like coming in to check on their source of lithium battery because they're making lithium batteries.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. Very different.
It's weird to also remember that all that stuff that just appears on our shelves, it's got to be created.
Yeah.
Found and somewhere, sourced somewhere.
Yeah, we were talking to our guide when we were in Santiago, and he was like, yeah, we have a lot of these natural resources, but we don't then refine them so we ship it out to like China or wherever to build the batteries and all of that.
Right.
And he's, I really think we should do, and I'm like, yeah, I guess so. I don't know all the economics behind it, but
yeah, I was like,
it seems like a good market there.
I was just talking to my girls about this like global economy and how if your nation does something really well, it's just embrace that, and then like it passes along. And with the current situation with the US, it was just like not every country needs to do everything in their country, because when you dabble in a lot of, it's just that way with everything, right? When you like, numbers matter, and when you produce one thing for 80 countries instead of producing one thing for one country, of course your numbers,
and you get really good at it, and you have economies of scale and all that kind of stuff.
Economies of scale, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, sorry. So side note. Okay, so you guys flew there, and now I'm trying to picture, like, I know Chile is really long. So about where is Santiago, and then you flew north to go to the desert?
Yeah, so Santiago is towards the north. The desert's further north. It's only where we were was only about 45 minutes from the border, 45 kilometers from the border of Bolivia.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of people do actually the desert, the Atacama Desert, and then also go over to Bolivia and do their salt flats there as like a combo trip.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So you guys took your flight. That's crazy that you had to take another flight, but probably good after having to go through via Bogota to split it up like that and have a little time in Santiago.
Yeah.
Especially that great restaurant experience you had, that it seemed like it literally, some of your stories, I was like, it's like you're on a Food Network show.
That's what I felt like. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Okay, so how did you guys get to where you stayed for the desert then? Did you stay in one place?
We did stay in one place. So basically there's a few different resorts in the San Pedro de Atacama. There's also like hostels and Airbnbs and some like smaller hotels, but I feel like most of the American travelers will go to one of these resorts. So we went to the Nayara, Alto Atacama, which they have a couple of places in Costa Rica. They have a place in Panama. So they're pretty well known as like a luxury property in South America. Also, there's an Explora, which similarly, they have a number of properties in South America. Like they have one on Easter Island. They have one in Patagonia, a few others, one in Bolivia. And then so those are the same level. And then there's the Owasi, which is, they do everything where it's like everything is private excursions. So that was a little beyond my price range.
Okay, gotcha.
But what a lot of these do, what a lot of the big resorts do, not big, but what a lot of the resorts do is they bundle. It's an all-inclusive. So your meals, your drinks, and your excursions. And I really liked that because, first of all, I talked to two different people that self-drove in Atacama, and both of them had car issues. So I'm not quite sure what you do, because honestly, most of the area was like no cell service. Yeah, there's not much around. Yeah. There's like dirt roads. The main highways are paved, but it's still, and you don't want to be in the driest desert in the world and stranded. So
no,
I very much appreciated having a driver and having guides, because even just trying to find your way to some of the different sites could have been tricky. And one thing that I found with Chile and Peru as well, but you definitely, when you weren't at a resort, like knowing some Spanish was very helpful.
And I know from what I've heard, Chilean Spanish also is extremely fast.
Very fast,
yeah, really hard to follow. So even if you know Spanish, you're probably going to struggle a little.
There are many times where I had that deer in the headlights look like, because someone would start speaking and you could pick up like enough, but then it kept going, and I'm like, my brain just froze and gave up because it was still working on like the first sentence and trying to figure that out. And so, but anyway, we liked that we had this all-inclusive package. There is an option
that's really nice.
I think, to not do the excursions included. And one thing I will say about that is, so where we stayed at the Nayara, they included either one full day excursion or 2 half-day excursions per day.
Okay.
And it is probably a good idea to do the full day excursions, because what we found with the half-day excursions is that even though this is like a central town, like this is a big region, and so to get to some of these landscapes or different things that you're going to go do and see, it could take an hour, especially given the roads. And so if you're an hour there, you do something, you come back an hour, you have lunch, like you don't really want to go back out like that. especially like I was getting a little car sick, and because you're in bands and it's bumpy.
I was
and
just
it's
going to ask, are
windy.
you with other people?
Yeah. So this one, the Nayara, the Explora, I think the Tierra, they do joint group excursions, which was fine because you got to meet people. We met people from Paris and Australia and Florida, but just we met people. That was no problem. Like I didn't feel like I needed to have a private excursion to go take a hike or something like that.
Could you have asked for, did you specify that you had motion sickness and needed a front seat or?
No, not really. I tried to just be there early to get on and get the front seat, but it didn't always work out. So basically, when you get there, you sit down and they go through all of their different types of excursions, and they tell you the difficulty level, the elevation, because it is at a higher elevation, and especially some of the parts in the further north as you get towards the Andes are higher. So they don't want you to do that on your first day because they want you to acclimate. And so they walk you through all of the different things and you decide what you want to do and you book it. But we still switched some things around because, like I said, we were going to do 2 half-day excursions. And then that day I was like, you know what, I'm just really tired. And Glenn didn't really want to do the next day full excursion because it was maybe a little too much hiking. And so he's like, you can do that on your own and I'll do something else. I'm like, you know what, let's just take this half day and move it to the next day and let's go do the spa because we had a spa credit because this property is part of Virtuoso. And so if you remember from our travel agent episode, I can get some perks at Virtuoso, which includes like a spa credit, things like that.
Nice.
And the spa was lovely. So that's how it works. You get to customize like what you want to do, but it's still group excursions.
Okay. Do you want to tell us some of the things you did other than just hang out in a desert? So what were some of the excursions?
Yeah.
So you did, how many nights were you there? And then so you had a full day excursion and then 2 half day excursions?
We were there 3 nights, including the arrival. And so we did the first day, they had already signed us up for this sunset excursion. So it was like a 4 to 7. So basically we went out and saw what they call the Valley of the Moon or Valley de Luna. And it's where they filmed Mandalorian and some other movies because it has that very otherworldly. And I don't know how many places I've been to now in my life where they're like, and this is where they tested the Mars rovers. I'm like, yeah, I've heard that before. They've tested them in a lot of places. But we got to see we learned a lot about the geology and some like short little hikes, little viewpoints, that kind of thing. And then we had a picnic, but like more like a sundowner type of thing that you would do. In Africa. Yep. So we had wine and we had little snacks and stuff as we watched the sunset. So that was really nice. The next day we were going to do 2 half days, but we did 1 half day. Each day we just did 1 half day. And then in the afternoons, we either did the spa or the pools and we just like relaxed. Yeah.
I think that's a really great way. When I had the experience in Africa, that was the all-inclusive, like the 2 half days. You just go, it feels like I didn't need to experience the resort at all.
Yeah. So that's what I was feeling like. And I'm like, you know what? This is my vacation. And I feel like because of what we do, I get so in the like thought process that I have to see everything. I have to do everything so I can cover it and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. Like we were going to do the full day geyser tour. And I was like, you know what? I've been to Iceland. I've been to Yellowstone. Like, I've seen geysers. I've done hikes. Yeah. It's okay. If Glenn doesn't want to do it, I don't, have to do it. It's okay.
I didn't even know there would be geysers around there.
Yeah, there's hot springs. There's actually some hot springs that you could go and soak in. So one of the things that we did was their salt flat and flamingo reserve. And I was picturing in my head something more like the Bolivian salt flats, which are that pure white, flat, just like gorgeous, stretches forever. And sometimes when there's some water on it, they get that beautiful reflection. So you've seen those pictures probably on Instagram. So that's what I was thinking. But their salt flat, the salt is more, I don't know if it's calcified, but it's mixed with other minerals. So it almost looks like a white lava field. So it's really rough, but it's white. And it's, like I said, mixed with
darker
other minerals and things. Yeah. But there is still some lagoons and there are flamingos. So they have a flamingo reserve there. So that was cool. And
did it smell? Because
no,
I feel like flamingos stink really bad.
You weren't that close to them and there weren't that many of them. So it's not like when you go to a zoo and you're by their little enclosure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Although I was just looking because you know that we're going to the Baja Mar in the Bahamas in a couple of months. And I've been working on the last details for that trip, and one of the things that they have is you can interact with the flamingos, and I was just first of all thinking that must be like really traumatizing for the flamingos, but also just
Poor flamingos.
like between that and like the swimming with the pigs, I'm like, yeah, there's probably poop everywhere.
Yeah,
One of the
poop
things
everywhere. It was like yoga when I
it was
was
flamingos.
made to do goat yoga.
They had to have yoga with the flamingos, and I'm like, that bird's totally gonna poop on you. But anyway, or watch
Note
where
to
you
self,
put your hands.
people. Yeah, the animal yogas are never like. Just think, those animals can't.
Yeah.
They don't go to a bathroom.
It's not as cute as it just looks in the photo.
Yeah.
So that's what we did the first day. And then the second day we did this Rainbow Valley, which I wish we had done the full day hike there.
Okay.
But it was just such a cool landscape. And it's not like the same as Rainbow Mountain in Peru.
That's what I was wondering if it was the same. I was like, was it better than the Peru?
But you still did see like a layer of green, a layer of red, a layer of white, but just not quite the same. But it was a really cool landscape. It was a great excursion, so I really enjoyed that one. And then also we did at the hotel, they have what they call their observatory. It's really just like an area where they have some lawn chairs and some telescopes. They have an astronomer that gives a talk once or twice a night. And this guy's in Chile, like Hannah was super jealous of us going to Chile because it's not just dark sky. It is also like all the conditions that you need: altitude, dryness, lack of light, no other light pollution. So you get some
Southern Hemisphere also. So it's
you
a
got
different
to see
sky.
the Southern Cross. And Hannah was like, oh, maybe you'll get to see the Magellanic Clouds or something like that. And I was just like, okay, but sure enough, we did. Awesome. It's like another galaxy that you can see. Yeah, so it was like, that was great. And one thing, if you are really into the dark sky, if you go during their winter, which is our summer, it tends to be the driest. And so you're going to have the best opportunity with no clouds or whatever. But one thing that I've learned way back that you should always look at is that you want it to be when there's a new moon and not a full moon, because a full moon is going to produce too much light in the sky. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Yeah. All that stuff, that's smart.
So,
you have to think about when you're planning your trip.
Yeah.
If that's something that matters. There's a big tip for you guys. You heard it here, Vacation Mavens.
Yeah. So we got to see, you could see the Milky Way, but it wasn't like some photos.
Yeah, I saw.
And that was with my iPhone because I didn't even bother to bring anything else. But yeah, so it's beautiful.
That's awesome. Nice.
And I think that because I've traveled so much in the Southwest and I've also stayed in desert resorts, it wasn't quite as much of a wow as I was expecting.
Right.
So I feel like if you have done like a lot of the Utah parks and things like that, maybe it's not going to be such a dramatic landscape like you've never seen before. Certainly the people coming from Paris, that's a big change. So I think it really depends, but it was still, I'm glad that we went. I don't know what we didn't get to do and see, but it was a good experience.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, it makes me think about when we went to the Hoh Rainforest in the Olympic National Park and the girls were not impressed at all because they're like, this is like our backyard.
Right.
So it depends that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Quickly about the resort, anything else you want to share about the food on the resort? Because it was all inclusive, right? And then, or the room, anything else about that you want to share before we wrap out with some tips?
Yeah, sure. The room I thought was really nice. I thought the resort altogether was very nice. I liked that there were multiple pools, like multiple little pool areas, really nice kind of outdoor areas. They have some llamas so if you haven't seen llamas, you can get to see them. The one thing that I was a little disappointed in was the food.
Okay.
So one thing that I didn't love, it was basically lunch. So breakfast buffet, great. You have to really work hard to screw up a breakfast buffet, but they also served eggs. Like, it was really nice. And then, but lunch and dinner were both like a 3-course menu. You only had maybe 3 or 4 options to choose from. So it was a little
limited.
Were they repetitive? They weren't repetitive, but they weren't necessarily what I was excited about either. Yeah. And there were small portions. So if there was like one of the 3 things, like, oh, I'll have the salad or something, like, it was small. So what we ended up doing for the 2 of the days is they also have a bar menu in their bar and lounge. And so we went over there because that's where you could get, I don't know, a salad, a steak sandwich, like a burger, a pizza, like something more casual. Because I just came off of a hike. I'm like sweaty, dirty.
Calories.
Like, I don't really want to sit down and have a 3-course dinner. Like,
meal.
I just want to have something casual.
That's weird for lunch. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for dinner, I don't know if it was the first night or the second night, but they were like, oh, tonight is a barbecue by the pool. So I was like, great. And so I thought it would be a buffet where you get up and pick all the different things you want.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't. There was a menu. And I was like, okay, I'll get the pork ribs. And they brought me one rib. And it was like Glenn and I were just laughing. We're like, what is going on? What? Did we miss something? Like, I don't understand. And he had ordered the steak, and it was like, I don't know, like a 2-inch piece of steak. And we were like, what's going on?
It's like, I know that American portion sizes are large and we get used to that, but we've both traveled enough that it's like, if you notice it, you expect to go in and it's not going to be American. But one rib.
Yeah, I'm talking about like when you get like a rack of ribs, it was one rib. It's 3 little bites in that. That was it.
Yeah.
So I think what you were supposed to do is order multiple proteins, and then they would serve it like a buffet where you get like a little bit of each. So it took
that would
me
make
like
more sense.
after we ate that, and then I was eating like all the bread because I'm like, I'm hungry.
It's like when we go to the Mexican restaurant and we're like
chips.
hungry and and then we're not hungry for our food.
Pretty much.
Sorry.
Like, just give me chips and queso, and that is definitely a meal for me. I'm happy with that. But yeah, so then he came back and he's, would you like another protein? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, now I'm full on bread.
Now you, yeah. Oh, okay.
So
That's
but the
funny.
food was, like I said, it wasn't anything to be excited about.
Yeah. Probably also very meat heavy, I'm assuming.
It wasn't too bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you feel okay eating the produce there?
I did there, but later when we talk about the wine region, one of the places was like, don't drink the water. And so I didn't have any of the salads or anything there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, everything felt okay. I had salad, I had fruit. It was no issues. And luckily the elevation, I think because the excursions we did weren't the highest, but we were still at, I think the hotel was at like 8,000 or 9,000 feet.
Significant. That's like going to Vail from like Seattle.
That didn't maybe like some, like I definitely had trouble sleeping, but sometimes that's just with travel anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, but overall, like it was so much better than when I was in Peru but also I was healthier.
Yeah, that's true.
But not as high.
So was the transportation to and from the airport included with the hotel stay? Okay, that's good. So then we're going to continue on with the rest of your trip, I think, for our next episode when we record about the wineries. Yep. But do you want to close this out with a couple of maybe tips about money or getting around, and then maybe how it compares to Peru, and anything else?
Yeah, definitely.
Wrap this one out.
So one thing was, I thought that my European adapter was going to work because when I looked it up, it said like it had 2 pins.
C or whatever that one is.
Yeah. I couldn't remember the
letter.
C or L. So I'm just like looking at it thinking like, oh, that'll work. So I brought my European adapter that has the 2 pins, but it also has all my USB-A and USB-C, like all those kind of whatever outlets in it. And it was not like Peru has, their outlets are like it has 3 prongs. So some 2-pronged things can fit into it, but the one that I had didn't. So luckily Glenn had brought the universal adapter that we have, and that had something that worked. So just pay attention, because in Peru, a lot of the outlets actually could accept a US plug.
Oh.
So anyway, just something to look into. Money-wise, the money is, it's basically around 1,000 pesos for $1, like something like that. It's not exact. It's 950 or something like that. But just to make it easy, you can do the math like that. So I did get some money in advance, but we were there for like 11 days. I think I had taken out like $300 worth of money just to like tip people or whatever. And at the airport, we were like having to pay for our lunch and trying to buy snacks and just trying to use that money up. Oh, okay. So you really didn't need a lot of cash. Definitely in the Atacama Desert, we were able to put all of our tips onto the hotel bill.
Oh, I was just going to say, how did you tip the guide every time?
So we did that. Okay. They actually have where you can fill out a sheet of who you want to tip and just
like housekeeping and all your servers.
If you want housekeeping, this much per day, or if you want your guides, if you want to name them, or just if you want to split it up. So that was easy. I would say, like, when it comes to packing, you're going to the driest desert. You need a ton of sunscreen. You need, because you're high. And there's actually one thing that I didn't mention is that this is something I feel like I learned about, but I really need to look into it more. But they said there's like a hole in the ozone near there.
Oh, right. Oh, it's near there. Okay.
And so
up in the northern, but
there's actually places that have a UV like scale. that were, they put like an alert, like even in the town center, there was like a sign where it had like numbers and it would have a light on if it was like too, like almost
UV exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need to watch,
Yeah.
that. You need to have a hat, but it's also super dry. So you need to have your moisturizer, your lip stuff, just drink a lot of water. They did provide reusable, refillable water bottles. We had obviously already brought our own. And they, for all of the hikes, all the excursions, they always have extra. So they have a big cooler so you can refill. And then they bring other kinds of drinks that you can have too. So they really take care of you in terms of like making sure that you're hydrated. Yeah. The other thing is that Chile has a lot of earthquakes. And up in by the Atacama Desert, you can see, you're close to the Andes volcanoes,
the fault lines?
but you see an active volcano. As we were going towards the Salt Flat and the Flamingo Reserve, there's one that's just like, they said it's not lava, it's just ash, but it has erupted in recent history. So at first when we were in the little town, I thought that UV thing was going to be for like evacuate, because they do have to evacuate, but steam coming from this volcano.
Okay.
So that's cool. You don't see that everywhere. I think the only other place I've seen like a live volcano is in Hawaii.
And Iceland, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
and definitely just like layers, because you're desert, so it gets cooler at night. Remember that seasons are Southern Hemisphere, so we went in fall or the beginning of fall. And summer is their busiest time. When we went, it was not busy. It was
their summer. So our winter.
Yeah. But when I went in early April, that's when it was, right? So when I went in early April, it was not super. I don't know if it ever feels like super busy, but it wasn't ultra busy, but it wasn't empty.
Yeah,
it was a nice time to go.
Yeah, I've always thought of that. Like those are great. If you're a Christmas traveling family, I think South America is a great place to go to Christmas if you don't want a cold, like winter vacation, since it's the summer.
Yeah, definitely.
And an easy flight. So I bet it's a lot busier down there then.
Yeah, and just bring the right footwear too. Glenn had just brought his running shoes. And so when you're hiking in the desert, it's like dry dirt and rock. And so it's like you need good traction. So
yeah. Okay.
Good. Yeah.
That sounds like a nice little excursion, and I'm excited to hear all about the food and wine tasting on your next set. Yeah. So everybody should stay tuned. That one will be coming up
in a couple of weeks.
Couple weeks probably, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the adventure side or soft adventure side, and then we'll have the food and wine part.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right. Stay tuned.
We will talk to you guys soon.
If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and rate and review on your favorite podcast app, as that helps other people discover us. And if you want to see more, follow me, Tamara, at Your Time to Fly on Instagram and Facebook and all the others.
And you can follow me, Kim, at Stuffed Suitcase on Instagram, Facebook, and of course my blog.